Okay, welcome back everyone. We're going to continue with the theme around keeping you safe. So I'm now going to introduce to the stage Luke and Mia.
Hello everyone, thank you for coming back after the break. So my name's Luke McCreary, I'm Director of Planned and Commercial Works at Curo. And I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Mia Raymond-Burgess and I'm the Plan Works team leader for Curo.
So what I'll do is I'll just pass over to Mia just to run through the makeup of the team, and then we'll go through some slides. The whole point of this section is again around safety, but very much focusing on around gas safety and the ways we're looking to change and make everybody's life a little bit easier.
So we have, just belonging to our planned and services team, 58 colleagues. 11 of them work in the office in support roles, and then 46 are trades colleagues. They're spread across multiple teams, from gas safety, so the ones that come out and do your servicing, to the teams that I manage that come out and do your component replacements.
Cool. So in reference to chapter 1 in the charter, obviously to be safe in your home, there's 2 actions we want to touch about. So one is the installation of carbon monoxide alarms, which I'll come on to a little bit later. And most importantly today is to develop a programme with consulting with yourselves and the residents on the other social media platforms around the way we conduct the health and safety visits within your home. So the future, so at the moment, obviously we're doing the landlord gas safety checks. That's been something we've been doing for a long time, but what we are now feel we're in a position to do is start introducing some technology to try and make it a more proactive service. So some of the customers in this room or listening on social media may have already been involved in that process. So what we're looking at doing is introducing technology into the home, which gives us live data from the heating system and the boiler and alarms. So then we can monitor your systems remotely from the office and hopefully start fixing over the phone. And certainly in the future, be able to actually contact you when we can start to see that your appliances are starting to fail but haven't actually reached critical failure point. So then we can arrange a visit to your home or potentially fix over the phone with the use of Curo, which is another technology that's currently being trialled, to try and make it so it's less intrusive, so you don't always have to stay at home. So we have to visit every time, obviously in the 4-hour windows we're offering. So we're trying to move to that proactive maintenance service, which will ultimately give you the same level of service, but with less interruption to your own personal life. What we're also looking to do, and there was a recent voice box survey, we're looking to be able to start offering sort of home safety checks to both leasehold and shared ownership properties. These are 2 main reasons. One, it will give customers in sort of shared ownership and leasehold properties a more consistent service. We believe we can offer a service you can trust, and we believe we will be able to do it at a competitive price. What it will also mean is for obviously our other customers within the blocks, that your property is ultimately only as safe as the unsafe gas appliance in a privately owned leasehold or shared ownership property. So by offering that service, we can improve the safety to all our residents working within that block. The next thing is combined compliance visits. I'll pass over to you so you can go into a little bit more detail.
So as Liz mentioned in the opening, we did a great job last year of checking in with all of our customers and making sure that all of our essential safety maintenance was completed. What we're looking at, and from the feedback we've got, is actually customers would like to wait around a little bit less for us and us to try and do things in the most organised approach as possible. So we're currently looking at ways that we can combine that, so you're waiting for one visit. There's multiple checks we have to do. So carbon monoxide detectors are one. We have to check your water tank if we've got one to make sure that isn't overflowing. And then if you've got gas, we check your boiler. So there are multiple things there that we could combine to make things a little bit more efficient. But it would mean certain types of in-house training, and partially it's to do with customer feedback. So the poll we've put together heavily relies on whether or not that's something you'd be receptive to, because although it would only be one visit a year, it would make it a much longer visit.
Yeah, so some of the other things we're looking at combining there is we know right now you have to stay in every 5 years for an EICR. You have to stay in for visual asbestos checks if you have got asbestos in your home. You potentially have to stay in for a radon fan check if you've got a radon fan. We're looking at bringing in visual electrical checks yearly. And then you've got, obviously, as Mike discussed, obviously in the previous section, all obviously the additional fire checks. What we know is that potentially in your property, you could have 6 or 7 visits per year to do compliance checks. So, and we know that that means you have to stay in potentially 6, 7 or 8 times every year, where we're just asking to come into your home and trying to find a convenient one. So what we want to do from the poll is understand, as part of the charter, obviously giving you a voice and making sure our processes are adapted to what our customers say they want, is we've got various options that we could look to potentially put all the compliance checks into one visit. It would mean you'd have to stay in, and that visit may be a 4 or 5 hour visit, but we could potentially get to a point where you have to stay in once a year, and that's all of your checks that we legally have to do to keep you safe in your home done. We can then also make sure during those visits there's wraparound services from some of our other great teams to really make it almost like a one-stop MOT for both your property and your tenancy. There is an option we could split that into 2 visits, so 2 maybe 3 or 4 hour appointments. So again, you'd only have to stay in twice, or if obviously what our residents are saying they want, we could stick to as it is now, which is 6 or 7 individual sort of 1 to 2 hour appointments. So, but before we sort of go full steam ahead and try and remodel the programme, we want obviously your feedback, and we can bring that in to make sure that any changes we make is obviously taking your feedback on board to make sure that it isn't the perception of me or my team of what our residents want, but it is actually in fact exactly what you're telling us that you want.
So as Paul and Vic said earlier, this poll is currently on Slido, and you should all have paper copies in your bags. So the options are 1 visit to do all the safety checks, 2 visits slightly longer, or multiple visits throughout the year, and we'd really appreciate your feedback on that.
Cool. And then talking particularly about gas safety, obviously we've always had to do annual landlord gas safety checks, and obviously we continue to do that. The first thing I do want to speak about is access to your home. Obviously, as we just said, we appreciate we ask for access to your home very often, but currently and historically, we've always had about a 28% no access rate. So that means on the first visit, even though it's been booked with customers, we fail to gain access, and then obviously have to rebook it and attend time after time, and potentially on some occasions even go down sort of enforcement routes. What we really want to emphasise is obviously we are doing it pure and simply to keep you safe in your home, and certainly if you're in a terrace or in a block, to keep the other people safe. So what I'd like to do following this is obviously I'll be around, and some of the other members of the team, but also obviously contact us in the future. We want to work with you to try and, we understand that potentially some of the issues may be our communication, the way we book these appointments. So again, we just want to speak to you, understand why people aren't staying in. I don't think we've ever really got to the bottom of why people aren't staying in for the checks. We know when the check is done, the customer satisfaction for the team is often sort of 98, 99%. So we know when we get in and do the work, customers are happy. We really need to get to the root cause of why people aren't letting us in. No access just on home safety, so obviously we do a huge amount of work, but just on the gas safety check costs the business about £250,000. And obviously we spoke, as Vic and Liz spoke earlier on, obviously there's a lot of work we want to do. We've got backlogs, and ultimately there's a lot better things we can spend the money on by just sending people and not getting into the properties. So we want to work with you, reduce that no access, and then ultimately we'll be able to spend that same amount of money on things more important to yourself, like upgrades to the homes and ILS services. Testing your CO alarms, as mentioned right at the start, it is noted in the charter that we should start installing CO alarms. Luckily on this one, we have already been doing this for about 8 years, so this is one of the actions we are ahead of the cycle and have been for a long time. So it's just a case to really, like you do your smoke alarm test, please test your CO alarms. Obviously you can't smell or see CO, so obviously that alarm really is there as your only fail-safe to know if there's a problem. And some of the signs of CO in your home, obviously you can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't taste it. So really, if you have an open fluid appliances, you could find spillage or brown staining around the appliance. But a lot of the signs of CO is how people in the home are feeling. So nausea, sickness, headaches, etc. So please contact us if you obviously are suffering from any of those symptoms. Our contact team have got a huge amount of information and next steps. And ultimately, we need to turn that appliance off and get one of the registered engineers out to actually test the appliance to actually make sure that it is safe and obviously do any repairs necessary. So that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour because we were slightly overrunning. So open up for QA. Is there any on the handheld?
Not yet. Have you got any in the room? Go on, Wendy.
Oh, the mic's just come in now.
Come in.
In my old flat, I did have one of those systems and it worked very good. I don't know if I'm going to get one in my new property yet because I haven't spoken to Maya. But it works very good.
Oh, perfect. So are you currently moving house then?
I've just moved house into a bungalow.
Oh, okay. So I'll be staying around after in the next break and we can have a look at, obviously on the systems, exactly what you've got in the property. And if not, obviously we can send one of the team round and make sure that the system in your home is obviously suitable for your needs.
Okay. Thank you.
No worries. Is there any other questions in the room? Perfect, must have nailed it. Back to you, Paul.
Okay, thank you, Luke. Thank you, Mia, in fact. We are due to have another break now, actually. So I know you've only just come back, some of you, but we'll just take another 10 minutes or so just to clear things up and get ready for the next session. But you can hang on and talk to Luke or Mia about anything else that was relevant from that last session if you'd like to. And still, most of the other Curo colleagues are still round and about. So we'll just have a brief pause for now.